User Weaver posted this file, and I was taking a look at the topology, but I also couldn't help but look at the modifier stack, which also piqued my curiosity. So if we go in and we look at the topology, you can see that this is the topology in its current state. So I asked him if I could, do a quick video just kind of discussing the correction of such topology, because I can see what he's going for, right? Like he wants this plate to have like a finalized look, but in the process of refining topology, you gotta keep it a little simple. So we will Shift D duplicate this, hide this one, we'll Shift D duplicate this one, and we're going to actually turn on show wires. We'll select the original one and just remove any additional modifiers, leaving only the mirror, and then we'll shift select this one, press Q, and kind of a lot of buttons here. And what we want is under mesh tools, we want to use shrink 2. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Use it so infrequently that we hardly ever bring this thing up. So we'll just hide this one underneath, and this one's now shrink wrap to the top. Kind of not the most informative way to set up such things, but it's a work in process. So we're just going to do a little ice skating and relieve some tension. Just cut here, move this here. And the goal is to have like this kind of equalized quadrilateral geometry that isn't so stressing on the mesh's form. So you can see that as I make these small corrections, it's just getting a little bit better, a little bit more relaxed. And that's what we want. We want the mesh to be relaxed, because in the UVing stage, these tensions will come across as distortion. So the better you actually do at retopology, the easier things are when it comes to unwrapping this, laying this down flat, getting adequate textile density, as well as conveying to the client your competence as a modeler, of course. However, this user was definitely working very hard on this model. I've been watching him for days, which is specifically why I wanted to do something on his model. I'm not saying, just send me your rubbish and your hardships, that you spent seconds on. If it's something that you care about, then it's definitely something that I'm curious in, especially if we can help you if we can. So we'll just relax the tension in this particular area, and we come across to the middle where things were just a little bit out of control here. And so we have to make some choices. One choice is I'm just going to just get rid of everything that I'm seeing there. And right here, we're going to just rewrite this. Actually, rewriting would in this video so fast, because I could just write proper geometry and call it a day. Instead, we are going to deal with this properly. So the areas that are being deleted are just the ones that are just beyond reproach. And we'll just create our own flow and then come back and make it sensible. Like right here, I'll put an edge loop because this user is going for all quad. So the all quad rule just means you got to play with the rules of redirection a little bit. In a way, I always talk about how modeling and retopology is like Jenga or Tetris. I love Tetris. I'm always thinking about Tetris. So even right now, I'm thinking about pausing this video and just playing around, just getting smashed by a bunch of Asian names I can't pronounce. But instead, we'll play a game that I have a higher chance of winning, which is getting through this model. So right here, a choice is made. I can net to here, which will cause a bit of a complication in this area. Let's not do that. Let's actually just delete this, and let's talk about what we want done here. So this user more than likely wants control in this corner. However, if you add one loop, we can now create an edge flow, which now gives us 3 angles of control here. So we can slide this here. In fact, I think he has weld on. There we go. Now we could slide this here. We can slide this down. We can slide this too. And there's like a little bit of an edge flow going on there. But we also have this extra loop here that we can then use to swing around and meet this area. In fact, from the looks of it, looks like we have a subdivision, but we don't. It's just shrink wrap being a weirdo. And so right here, we could jump this over, but that's a jump too far, creating tension. and see, we would just fill that in and call it a day. But that is an inadequate solution. We've jumped the shark like Happy Days, so we don't want to do that. We actually want to bring it back and keep things sane. Our goal is to keep things equilateral, because if you jump the shark, you'll have to pay for it at some point when your season doesn't get renewed. So right here, we'll just bring that over, but we see that there's a bit of a solution needed here. So let's undo that. We'll slide this over, add a loop here. Fill, fill, fill. Of course, powered by F2, the greatest modeling tool ever added to Blender. No doubt about it. Without F2, I would be pressing probably 3 extra clicks and F every time I filled a face. So here we are. We have our army. This is our army. This is our area we aim to take. We could also maybe even buffer this area a little bit more. So let's do that right here. I'm going to select this point, press J to do a lightning bolt between these 2 points. And so now there's slack in between here. And so if we start merging points willy-nilly, we'll become as confused as when we started. But we can at least merge here, slide this over, and think real hard about what we want here. We can just get rid of that, maybe make this connection possible. And this area is just a little bit more relaxed, almost like the same as where we started, except we've interjected an additional loop. So we still aren't there yet. Let's get rid of this. We'll give the loop here. This loop will send another man to the army that's about to fight the great battle. So I don't know how to explain my logic when it comes to geometry, but I can tell you that these are the thoughts that go through my head whenever I'm just cutting up geo to make things fit where they're not supposed to. So even right here, I'm just kind of thinking on the fly and just rewriting this on the fly because I want a very particular result, and I can keep adjusting this area until it's just right. I think I've undid, and redid multiple times now. So if we look at this loop isn't needed. If it's not adding to the form, it's not needed. So we can just automatically get rid of that. And this solving is something I'm just dancing around. We could solve it so easily. 1, 2, 3. And this will solve like so. But that's a little tense for, doing a video talking about relieving the tension on a model like so. So how else can we approach such a thing? We could remove this loop, but that loop is kind of crucial. We could terminate it short, never letting it reach its full apex, and just connect it here. We could lightning bolt here, create our own little subsection that we can just manage as needed. Of course, for this, we can select both ends to diamond quad it, and we're still managing this area and letting this extra geo just be consolidated prior to the battle we are about to fight. So we still need a loop right here, no matter what. And so now we have a much better solution. We put a loop here, and this is our result. So it's almost like a bicycle seat in a way when you look at it. However, we can still do even more refinements and tweaking on this. In fact, if we look at this side here, this piece doesn't need to exist, which means we can slide this over. This loop doesn't need to exist. It was just created to relieve a little tension. And a big thing for me with retopology is sliding things in, sliding things out. So just to GG, just sliding. Of course, this area isn't my favorite, and I'll be forever thinking about how I could have solved it better. But if we take a look at this, there's a little bit of tension just right here, so that's not going to be good enough. So we'll try it again. And the point here is to just not be afraid of attempting to rewrite these topological areas, because sometimes moving your poles around is the difference between having good smooth shading and just having the worst shading you've ever seen. So we have this shape here, and it only has a mirror and a shrink wrap. So first thing we'll do is apply to shrink wrap. Now we have this mesh. Of course, if we want, we could turn on wireframe. And there's a feature actually in HardOps, but first we gotta crease your edge and crease this edge as well. In fact, let's look at the helper. We'll do the same thing here. And so this is what we have. So if I were to go under add modifier smooth, you can see that there's actually a control click where when you click it, it actually only smooths the borders. Actually, it's supposed to only smooth the borders. Let's check that again. Oh, actually, it's shift. Shift will only smooth the borders. And so we can just roll smooth it and just get real weird with it. And I should have done this before applying the shrink wrap, but I'm just showing you that these are just things you're able to do to kind of play with your sub D after the fact. So this is the shape that we have. So after we were completing this, let's say you were up leveling, which is the thing I used to do in my old videos and I just haven't shown for a while, but I still do all the time. And that is the process of just hardening it and applying a level of sub D. So we'll hit it with the sub D, we'll apply to smooth, and this is what we have. We take a look at this and we realize that this one's meant to be sharp, that one's meant to be sharp, which gets us something like that. We want to hit this one because it's supposed to be sharp. Right here, this one's supposed to be sharp. So mark is intended to hit only the, basically the same thing as S sharpen, but for edit mode. I'm not going to waste time explaining that. I apologize. So this is what it should look like, but it's not what we're actually getting. And at this phase, you want to be very particular about the geometry you're getting, because once you apply it, that's what you have to go forward with. In fact, I look at this shape, I'm like, what the heck is this? No wonder this didn't get caught by the sharpening. So we'll just grab this area and maybe just pull it in so it makes a proper sharp. We've got to give this a fair chance. This isn't even a fair chance. Really look at these surfaces at this phase, because once we apply a level of sub D, there's no coming back. So this is now the next level of this form. And some areas didn't win. So if we look at sharpen, right now I actually have resharp on Control Shift. So if we click that, it actually does a resharp where it recalculates the sharp edges. And this is the only time I ever use this thing, is when I need to just recalculate my sharp edges. In fact, this one was not creased enough to survive. Neither was this one. But now we can look at this part in its true form. In fact, if we turn off wireframe, this is what we have. Some loops can be removed. For example, that loop, probably not the most assistive. This loop, I just don't like the way it was looking at me. Can also go. Of course, we'll symmetrize it. But our origin's right there. And this is what we have so far. And let's say I want to be very particular about these edges. Well, let's go in and everything is sharpened just the way I like it. Maybe this area could be sharper. Let's send our boy Mark in there, Marky Mark, to mark him up. Marky Mark will handle the job. So if we go back under modifier and we shift click on smooth, we can now add in fact, I should add Z to show wire. And accidentally press Z thinking it was going to show wire. And this isn't how smooth works. I don't even need to smooth on an axis. So what's crazy. So things are looking so far so good. In fact, if we turn smooth off and on, you can kind of see what it's bringing to the table, just really equalizing that geometry a little bit better. So let's say we wanted to go ahead and add beveling. So we'll just add bevel, but I'm going to press L. So that way we bevel using the limit method of weight. We could change the workflow, but I just don't even bother with it anymore. I just press one key. I mean, what's one key compared to one hotkey and 2 clicks? All the world to me. We will alt click sharpen, which will add a weighted normal. getting our shading just right. You know, as I was watching the user work on this model, I thought that he was making I thought he was in face orientation the whole time, but he wasn't. So I'm going to press Alt V, go into Look Dev. Jesus. This guy was not ready. In fact, he shows me I have some work to do with Look Dev. We press Tab to get out of that, and this is what we're looking at. But it's not in the right light, so I'm going to press Control M. Wow, this version of Blender on this computer is a little old. But in the next update, we're going to be adding the ability to jump to material scroll from this. So right now I'm in general material scroll. I'll press B to do blank, and we'll just scroll for a material that is worthwhile. We'll turn off viewport overlays. Just look at what we have here. So not the best work, of course, but definitely a little bit better than what I was saying before. I just wanted to see a little bit better geometry happening here. I mean, as I look at it, I see things I still want to tweak even now. But the point is when it comes to the mirror junction, just keep it relaxed.